So, as part of the Yarra Trams Community Partnership Program, a DeadlyScience wrap tram will be hitting the tracks next week on the 9th of May in Naarm and will be in service until August. I'm here with Corey Tutt, proud Kamilaroi man, founder and CEO of DeadlyScience, and Jake Simon, Worimi Biripi man, owner of InYaDot Art, to discuss this exciting partnership. Jake and Corey, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having
Yama.
me.
Course. So as a bit of background, the Yarra Trams Community Partnerships program provides in-kind advertising annually to community organisations that are committed to creating a more resilient and sustainable Melbourne. So Corey, can you tell us a bit more about the partnership between DeadlyScience and Yarra Trams and the significance of this tram wrap launch?
Firstly, to quote Rafael Nadal, it's unbelievable. It's really important that the DeadlyScience really amplifies the voices of First Nations science in Australia. We have 65,000 plus years of STEM, and when we first discussed the idea of applying to be a charity partner for Yarra Trams, I think the first words I said, Tara, at the time was like, we really want to make this bold. We want to make it known around the true history of STEM in this country, and we want it to be a real celebration. Celebration of our deadly scientists, a celebration of what this organization does in empowering young mob to find a love of science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And for me, having a look at Jake's design, it's exactly how I envisioned it to be, but also I just love it. It's exactly what we wanted, so it's great.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think that leads really well into our next question, which is how does the tram wrap visually impact the community, especially in a vibrant city like Naarm?
Oh, I think it's going to be amazing. I mean, the last probably 5 years, Indigenous STEM has become very popular, and I think this is the tram that everyone needed. A real celebration of Black excellence. Black excellence in STEM, and I'm really excited because a part of me that can't wait to see people taking photos of the tram and connecting with what we do and all the communities we support. Um, Especially in a city like Naarm, like Queen Street in Naarm is like heavy foot traffic. People should know that our people are the first scientists. We are the first astronomers. We are the first forensic scientists. We are the first engineers. And it's really important that we support the next generation of deadly scientists coming through and make them feel empowered in their identity and who they are. And for a long time, we've looked at scientists and we've looked at lab coats, and they've described like we kind of see this image of a scientist as Albert Einstein or Thomas Edison, which are all predominantly old white males. But that actually isn't what a scientist actually looks like. If you wanted to see what a scientist looks like, you'd have to hold up a mirror because it looks like every one of us. And that means every single kid in community, subconsciously we've told them that sport and art are their only real options for them to be successful. But however, those are great things, but kids can do science as well, which is really important.
I love that, Corey. And I think it's also really important to touch on the call to action on the tram, which is tap into over 65,000 years of Indigenous science knowledge. So that is a really powerful call to action. And I think we'll touch on that a little bit more later. But first, I'd like to find out a bit more from you, Jake. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and the inspiration behind the design of the tram?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm Jake Simon, proud Worimi Biripi man. I'm living down here on Gadigal country for about the last 7 years. A bit of a backstory of my art journey. It's like didn't really start as full time um, until about 3 years ago. We had that incident worldwide, and we're confined to our tiny spaces. Yeah, then it really just kicked off there, and on the grapevine of community, my art started taking off, and here we are today, about to release this tram into the world that's gonna, inspire people and everything like that, which I'm really proud of. So yeah, you asked about my inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm always firstly I was inspired by Black science, so Deadly Science, and how mob and communities have used that, for 65,000 years plus, and how, they incorporated into modern science. I was drawn by changes of seasons, how mob navigated the stars and, the landscapes, and as you can, when you see it, the color palette that we have in the artwork is drawn from what I see visually. It's not just, those desert colors, the real like ochres and things like that. These are colors inspired by my country as well, because my country is coastal and very colorful and vibrant. You mightn't really hone in and see it, but it's there. Like the palettes are there, and I'm always inspired by my surroundings, and my own stories as well, which I incorporated into this. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And particularly around the symbols used also in the tram. So we've got lots of amazing symbols there.
Well, they're in some of the symbols, there's some of the typical ones that are sort of very well recognized, with animal tracks and that, like, that doesn't change, but there are symbols in it that I've um to to tell my part as well from my perspective. This is a 50-50 point of view sort of art piece, because I'm telling your story as well as mine and incorporating that. So yeah, a lot of the symbols, they're recognized a lot, and some of them are new, like how I'm interpreting like your story to put onto the tram.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Jake. And Corey, um, how do you think being a part of the Yarra Trams Community Partnerships program will help Deadly Science further our mission to create STEM equity for Indigenous learners?
I think it's worth noting as well, everything that Deadly Science does, we look to amplify other mobs' voices with every opportunity. So having Jake's artwork and having Jake's story um, told with our story is really important to me personally as a founder. I really want to see our mob shine, whatever field they're in, and do well. And first time in the history of this that there's ever been an Indigenous STEM tram. Like we're the first to do it. Um, and that's exciting. It's scary. But I'd rather be the first to do something and fail than be the one of many people who didn't try. It's really important that we try, and we try to bring Indigenous STEM to the forefront so we can change the future for our young Jarjums so that they can aspire to be just like our ancestors, just like our elders, knowledge holders, and really just be deadly. I'm not here to tell every kid to go and be a scientist. I'm here to tell them they can, and that's true. That's the truth of it. But also, to celebrate with Jake and have such an amazing thing. Like, not many people in this life can turn around and say that they've got a tram with their wrap on it, or, and that's, I probably feel the same as Jake in the sense of like, this is, for me, I pinch myself sometimes that, that this is possible, that you can actually do something like this. And I really hope that people that see the tram, they just feel like they feel that connection that I feel and that pride, because ultimately this is the tram that's gonna fuel Indigenous futures, and hopefully there's a kid out there that sees the tram and sees Deadly Science, and maybe they aspire to do their own Deadly Science one day. Maybe they aspire to work for Deadly Science one day. Like maybe this will be the thing that inspires that kid to go and become a researcher, or be crazy and work in a zoo like I did. It's and this is a billboard for futures, and I hope that everyone that looks at this tram, I hope obviously they donate to Deadly Science so we can do more work, but the main thing is an educational tool, and it's to educate, and it's also to celebrate.
Yeah. I love that. And it's so powerful, Corey. Like, you touched on a really great point there. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what are the key challenges that Indigenous learners face in accessing STEM education and opportunities, and what is DeadlyScience doing to help address those?
Well, first of all, like, you know, for growing up, I'm a Kamilaroi man, obviously, from my family come from Walgett. I grew up in a pretty racist town called Dapto, and you know, a lot of my childhood was reading stories about about my people that were negative, and not much has changed. So DeadlyScience actually celebrates the good stories of our community, and we bring that pride factor back into STEM. We change the narrative. You know, when I wrote the book First Scientists, I had a professor at a pretty prestigious university say to me, "If your mob was such great scientists, how come they didn't wear lab coats?" Well, I made it easier for him. I put all the mob in lab coats because it's just a bit of PPE. It's not defined by race or gender. It's not defined by who you are. It's just a bit of PPE to stop you from spilling chemicals on yourself. But you know, we symbolize these items that, you know, suddenly if you're not wearing a lab coat, you're not a scientist, or if you're not a white man, you're not a scientist. And for me, DeadlyScience is looking to change the narrative so that these kids can just, you know, if they have a passion, they can follow it. They're not going to have that internal doubt where, you know, if they don't see themselves in it, they're not going to feel like they're part of it. So what DeadlyScience is doing over time is, you know, even from our books, we're putting our kids in our books. So kids are reading about other mob doing science experiments. We're actually giving teenagers opportunities that they wouldn't have had, you know, like going to High and looking at a lab, cancer research in the flesh, where, you know, providing resources for schools that time's forgotten about. You know, there's classrooms that I've seen in Australia with 15 books in its entire classroom, or, you know, we're giving kids in the Torres Strait the ability to make their own lab kit, and other kids are going to learn from that. So we're actually putting the education back in the kids' hands.
Mm.
And from that, we've, you know, even from our Pathways program last year, we had 4 Indigenous women go on get in engineering scholarships. Now, we're not going to hang our bat on that because, you know, it shouldn't be a celebration that, you know, these kids just take an opportunity. What I celebrate is the fact that together we've provided resources and learnings, and opportunities to more than 800 communities across Australia. And we've given our kids an identity in STEM. You know, they want to be a deadly scientist. You know, they don't want to be a university of, you know, whatever scientist. They want to be a deadly scientist. And that's really important. You know, because previously it's like, I want to be a deadly footballer, I want to be a deadly artist one day. But there's a bunch of kids that, you know, maybe they're not so good at sport or they're not so good at art. And we can open up those doors for them. And why not be both? And we're here to tell them they can, not they can't.
Yeah. So true, Corey, and such important work that DeadlyScience is doing. Um, so Jake, I wonder, how did you interpret that, and what was the artistic process to interpret that within the tram wrap?
Well, starting off when I was approached by you guys, and then cross-referencing like my own experiences and how I have actually used, you know, my own sciences in everyday life, and all things that are surrounding me in like my community. And um, you know, I stemmed from that and you know, just created something that was relatable to other people, or if their stories are similar, especially when living on the East Coast, a lot of our environments are the same. So we sort of have similar stories around how the environment is. So like I wanted to keep that into it as well. So if anyone ever asks me like, oh, you know, what does that mean? Like I put the like Gaimea lily leaves in it. And on the East Coast, you know, when that is blooming, that means it's whale season. The whales are coming down the coast, you know, so like just little like stories here and there, and it's all incorporated in that. So if someone asks me, what that mean, I'm like, this is what it means. And some people relate to that because they might be on the coast too. And it's then that's storytelling too, which what we do, and we continue telling stories of our culture. Yeah. So like a lot of the symbols in it, like I said before, it's like a POV as well. And it's my story, my way of telling your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So each element tells a story in itself, which I think that is so powerful. And yeah, it's wonderful to learn the stories of each of those elements of the tram.
You know
Um,
how if everyone like someone might see a hieroglyphic and they're like, oh, we know exactly where that's from and what that means. Not exactly what it means, but we know who it comes from. And I don't think there's many symbols um that we use as artists or like, mob that people go, oh, that's Aboriginal symbol or something like that. I don't think it's that recognizable as like a hieroglyphic. And um, you know, putting this into everything I do, I hope that it becomes more popular and people go, oh, I know exactly that kangaroo. That's the boomerang. That's the stars. That's, something like that straight away as soon as I look at it. And, what Corey said before about this, the impact that the tram's going to have down there in Naarm. I think it's going to be something that's going to be imprinted on people because they're going to see it every day. Like, and when they're crossing the road, they see the green man, the red man, like stop, go. They're going to see this tram just as much as they hear that, and it's going to be imprinted in people, I think. Um, so when they see this, I think that when they see some another First Nations artwork, they're going to like, yes, I've seen that before. Where have I seen that? DeadlyScience, tram, Melbourne. Like it's that connection. I think it's going to go like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the modern take that you've used on traditional Indigenous artwork with this tram. Like I think the first time I saw the designs that you put together, I was really taken back because in particular, the snake and just the real modern edge that you've used with the artwork, I think is incredible. Um, so in what ways do you think public art installations like this can contribute to raising awareness about social and community issues?
Well, I think a lot of us have grown up with certain artworks of certain people in the streets, colonizing artworks, I guess, and things like that. And, it's everyone's like, oh, that's that person, that's whatever. And now that there's more public artworks being put everywhere, like train stations, like high traffic areas, that like I said before, I think it's going to imprint on people because they're going to see it every day. They're going to see it at the same time every day that like they're doing their routines. And um, I think it picks at someone's brain to then inquire, what is this? I see
Mm.
it every day if they don't understand what it is. And I think that's the impact.
Definitely. Yeah, it's that spark of curiosity and inviting people to learn more and to understand more, isn't it? So, and I think particularly with the call to action that tap into 65,000 years of Indigenous science knowledge. Like, Corey, can you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are around that call to action and how that makes you feel?
Oh, look, I still to this day, like I've met Neil deGrasse Tyson, I've met Lisa Harvey Smith, I've met Brian Cox, I've met and Michelle Simmons, some of the most influential scientists of our time. But they fail in comparison to the knowledge that my elders held, especially my grandfather. And my pop could tell you so much about all different sorts of animals and flowers, and he also could shear a sheep, 400 ways. And he just was a wealth of knowledge. And for me, for a long time, like I've always looked towards my elders and also our people as really clever, smart people that know country better than anyone else. And don't just know country, we adapt to things very, very fast because we've had to. And I think that when we say tap into 65,000 years of Indigenous knowledge, I think we should be proud of the fact that we come from the country whose first people invented bread. We should be proud of the fact that, our first peoples of this country invented different types of spears to do different things, to have that knowledge, the fish traps, the list is countless. And even though they tried to destroy that knowledge, it's still here. It survives. We've got so much blackfellow medicine. My auntie Deb Walford says to me all the time, she goes, there's nothing that's in a chemist that's over the counter that you can't find in the bush. And it's so true, and, colonization has stolen a lot of our knowledges and turned it into medicine. You go to every single Woolworths or every single supermarket in the country, you buy Baralam, which is tea tree oil, and everyone knows the healing properties of it, but it's a blackfellow medicine. In Baralam it's called Baralam in Bunjalung country, and it's found all over the East Coast, but it has different uses. You boil it, you can turn it into tea, you can smoke it, you can do all different sorts of stuff, and it helps you. Even the burning of eucalyptus leaves, the eucalyptus oil, the extraction of that's a blackfellow medicine. If you have ants in your house, there's two reasons why you have ants in your house. One, you're a grub, you haven't cleaned your house properly. Two, it's going to rain. And, even Ewan stories of, black cockatoos flying in a certain direction, that tells you about rain. It's been part of our culture for a long time. And the sad bit of that history is that the reason why those stories still exist is because they enslaved our people for farms, and the farmers wanted to know when it was going to rain. So it's always been here, and it's always been part of our fabric. It's just that people want to focus on the negative stuff. But when you've got all this good stuff, good parts of our culture that should be widely accepted and celebrated, you've got to accept the bad things that happened. And sometimes change starts with the words you don't want to hear.
Yep. So powerful, Corey, and very true. So look, to celebrate this tram launch, we are holding a special tram sighting event during NAIDOC Week. The theme for NAIDOC Week is Keep the Fire Burning, Black, Loud and Proud. And I would love to hear both of your thoughts on how this links into our tram sighting event and how this links into the call to action on the tram. Corey, what are your thoughts around that?
I think it's really important, that everyone gets behind DeadlyScience. It's not necessarily about me as the founder. It's about all the communities we support, all the kids out there that, are being celebrated. And it's about Jake as well. I really want to see Jake's art up in lights. I'm a massive fan. I love looking at Jake's Instagram and looking at his art. And I really like people that are bold enough to be themselves, and say it how it is. And I really like Jake's contemporary art. It's something different. It's out of the box. I love the purple. I think it's deadly. And I really want kids to look at DeadlyScience and say, you know what, that little bit of doubt that I had in my mind maybe about something that I was interested in, it's now gone because DeadlyScience says I can. And every time someone tells them they can't do something, they just turn around and say DeadlyScience says I can. So that's what I really want to see. I want to see allies, donating to DeadlyScience, being a voice. If they hear any racist crap, stand up and just educate. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to put up with that. Like, you don't have to be the silent person. You don't have to be the person that stands there and listens to stuff that isn't appropriate towards our mob. Our mob have constantly held the olive branch out for non-Indigenous people to walk with us.
And Jake, can you just tell me a little bit about how you feel the tram reflects the NAIDOC Week theme of keeping the fire burning?
Well, just even being having this artwork on a tram is keeping the fire burning. We're still here, we're Black, we're proud, we're thriving, we're not surviving, we're thriving, and we've done it for 65,000 years, So we are keeping the fire burning.
So powerful and so true. All right, we'll keep an eye on our socials because there will be some further details released about this tram sighting event in Naarm coming up in NAIDOC week on the 12th of July. Corey, can you just tell us a little bit more about how people can get on board, support our deadly scientists?
Yeah, almost certainly. You can jump on the socials, you can share our stuff, you can donate, you can buy a shirt as well if you're feeling that you're deadly enough to wear one, of course. You can buy our books if you want to learn a little bit more. You can just be a really staunch ally. You can hold a fundraiser in your workplace or your school. You can come and you can learn just from us. You can share your thoughts as well, which is good as long as they're positive. But yeah, you can get involved that way. You can jump on our website. You can learn more about our programs and what we do. And it's just most importantly, just get around it, get amongst it.
Thank you so much, Corey. And Jake, it's been amazing to hear your thoughts on the tram wrap as well today. So for anybody listening, please jump on socials, give Deadly Science a follow, donate, share, support, and give InYaDot Art a follow as well. Check out Jake's art, which is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, and stay deadly.